For you to, as you begin, the campaign is in 4 months, and it's going to be 4 months long. I mean, it's going to be 4 months long. So I'd like for you, in addition to your remarks, your opening remarks, I'd like for you to discuss your plans for your campaign as well. So, Mr. Mann, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and the rest of this committee. I would like to thank you for having me here today. It is an honor. I'd also like to say that I am Todd Mann and I want to be your next congressman of this district. One of the things I would like to mention is about my family a little bit. I'm married to Rita Mann. We have a son, Daniel, who is 12. And my family has been in the DeSoto area for over a century. We've been in the service business there, in the funeral industry, and also the ambulance service. So we've been servicing the public for many years. My father also was a politician there, a local politician. He ran for coroner in 1948. He was circuit clerk at Jefferson County, and he was also Canadian. And as a kid, as a child, I just figured all kids got to travel around with their dad and do politics, and that was just second nature to us. And I enjoyed it. I loved it. As I got older, I realized that not everybody did that. But I loved it. I ate and breathed it then, and I love it now. And it was an enjoyment. I really did enjoy that. But over the last few years, what I've been tired of is the lack of jobs that we've had. My focal point in running in this election is about jobs. Every day, families come into my business, and I sit down with them and I see the struggles they go through, each and every one of them. And it's usually about either the job they lost or the new job they have is not near as good as the old job they had. And I see this over and over and over. And I want to do something about that. I want to bring jobs back to this district. I want to fight. When I'm in Washington, I want to do everything possible to bring jobs back to this district. And if that means bringing federal money here, I will fight for that and I will do that. I think it's very important. There's several ways we'll have to go about that, and it won't be easy. But I promise you that I will give 100%, I will work 24/7, and I will do everything I can to bring those jobs here. If you've noticed, in the last 32 years, if you ask yourself, are we better off today than what we were 32 years ago or 10 years ago? I don't know. I look at this district, I ask myself what Emerson and the rest of the Republicans did. I see very little. Quite frankly, I'm shocked that this is the poorest district in the state. I think it's awful. I think it's the best district in the state. I love this district. I can't wait to get to work in this district and bring jobs here. That's inexcusable for a family to stay 32 years in Washington, and the best thing you can do is come out, quit early, and be a lobbyist. I'm appalled. I'm appalled. I think that we've lost something in our political world. I think that you have to have a heart. You have to care. One of the best things I've liked so far, somebody asked me the other day, what have you enjoyed the most so far in this election process? Because we got started right away. When we heard that Joanne was going to retire, we formed our committee. I'll explain a little more there. They said, what have you liked the best? So what have I liked the best? Talking to all you committee people. Well, how wonderful. I mean, you all, just talking to you, everyone has looked at the glass half full, not half empty. You've been positive. I love it. I'm ready to get back on the phone or come down here in person to see you all again and just hang out. It has been great. That has been the best thing that's pumped me up during this election so far is you all. And in order to win this, we're going to need each and every one of you helping us win this election. And you know what? We can do it. We can win this election. We can take this district back and we can win this election. And we can turn this from red to blue. I promise you that. Tell you a little bit about my campaign. Immediately after Joanne announced her retirement, we put our team together. We started working hard. And it's a lot of hard work. There's a lot of things behind the scenes that you gotta get done. We got our FEC paperwork filed, we got our EIN number, we built our website. It's tough, but it's been fun. I've loved every minute of it. I lose track of time today. I was supposed to be at my son's basketball game last night. My wife called me and said, we're supposed to be at church before the basketball game, where are you at? So, well, we're still working on campaign. But we are now in the process of fundraising. And we will raise enough money to win this race with your help and others in our district. We will raise enough money and we will win this race. I promise you that. Thank you, and thank you to this committee, and I'd like to thank the other candidates too. It takes a lot, and I think, the thing I'd like to see is the camaraderie of these candidates. Whoever gets picked, we need to help one another. Right now, what we hear, the Republicans are fighting. They can't make up their mind who they want, and let's hope they split, and maybe one of them runs independent, and we'll let them peel some votes off that way, and we'll take this district back. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Van. The next person up for opening remarks is Ms. Markle. Would you give us your first name when you come up, please? Also, again, we'd like for you to give us some idea and plan to discuss your campaign, because it is just a 4-month campaign.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Well, it's not good evening yet, it's good afternoon. My name is Ramona Fitzpatrick. My husband is Markle Fitzpatrick. We're from the big community village of Blodgett, Missouri. Mark could not be here. He is in Dallas, Texas. He had commitments, and when Mark makes a commitment, he stands by it. And he did try to get out of the commitments. He's got 3-day meetings down here. But Mark has basically given me his words. I'll be reading what he says. These are not my words, they are his. But he first opens up, says, I apologize for not being in attendance this evening and for asking my sweetheart, he calls me sweetheart, Ramona, to bear the burden of this campaign selection process. After sending my introduction letter to Mr. Cole and to Ms. Jinks and also to Mr. Duffy in Jefferson City, he did this last Thursday. He asked himself, how did I ever let this get so far? He's talked about doing something like this in the past, but he's just always kind of, I've always blown him off. But anyway, he said, how did it get this far? It says, our lives will become an open book, not that we have anything to hide, but the media can be cruel and condescending at times. Then it hit me. He said, I'm no more qualified than any other candidate, man or woman addressing you this evening, except for maybe the talents of persistence, patience, and long suffering. This is to say, getting the job at hand done in a timely manner. He wears many hats in his current position, and if you knew Mark, you'd know that he's either on the phone, he's putting out a fire, or he's going or coming from a meeting. And the only thing that I have to offer the 8th District is an honest empathy for my fellow man and a proven track record through hard work. I believe if you want to get a job done, give it to the busiest person you know. I want to thank you for this opportunity, and speaking for myself, I am glad to be here through my proxy, Ramona. I'm really angry at Congress at the moment for not getting anything accomplished for their constituents. Each party is locked up with their own agendas and are unwilling to talk. They are unwilling to compromise and search out ways to resolve our issues and problems as they relate to energy, the domestic economy, healthcare, foreign policy, or any other major issue. They are always going to make, are they always going to make the right decision? Probably not. But as Mark says, no decision is a decision. This country continues to suffer while members of Congress become steadfast and immobile. People say they want change. What they need is accountability from their elected officials. As a young man, I traveled the 8th District for many years as an outside sales representative for several different companies. Because of this experience, I'm extremely familiar with the towns and the people in the district. I have opened and or established 3 branches of our company in the district that being Jackson and Cape Girardeau, Washington, and Festus, Missouri, adding to the familiarization of the people in the district. He was mayor of our little village of Blodgett, Missouri. He was only mayor for 2 years, but during that period, he helped secure a grant for the town's public water system, and this was accomplished by being able to get all parties, Republican and Democrats, together, involved and working together, and up until to the time that Mark was mayor, Blodgett had applied for money for a grant 9 times. And with Mark's help, we managed to get the money for that grant. He's held numerous positions in his church. He's served in his current position as sales manager for the HVAC division of Brower Supply Company for 17 years. His duty includes supervision of 9 outside sales personnel, 12 branches, and 40 employees. And as an extension of this position, he serves also as a technical service advisor for the equipment. I'm going to kind of just go on. Mark can get a little lengthy in his speaking. He said he timed this, he didn't. But campaigning, we do not have deep pockets. We are just little people from a little community of Blodgett, Missouri. And he says he'll follow the grassroots approach to this campaign. He said he'll try to meet as many people in the district as possible. He says, I have a head start as I've lived here the majority of his 59 years.
Hi.
At this time, we also have a residence in Jefferson County. So he knows Jefferson County, he knows the whole district. But he will appoint a secretary, and he will do everything that needs to be done in order to meet the requirements. And if you give Mark the opportunity, I think he could make you a really good representative.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. Candidate is Representative Linda Black from what district, Linda?
117.
From District 117, State Representative District. Thank you, Linda. Proceed.
Good evening, everyone, and I appreciate the candidates coming out today to share their views on their mission for the 8th Congressional District. And first of all, I think it's most important to thank you for coming here and sharing your input in democracy and the changes, hopefully, that occurs in the 8th Congressional District. To give you a little bit of background about myself, I came out of being in city government and county government as a city treasurer of Bonne Terre, chief deputy treasurer of St. Francis County. Then I went a short time to UAW working in the auto plant in Benton. From that time, I finished my education, degree in education as a school teacher and worked in the public school system for 12 years. And at that time, I ran for the House seat in 2008, and the rest is history. I've been there ever since. To let you know, in the future of the 8th Congressional District, there are several things that we're going to have to consider about adding to the economy of the 8th Congressional. We are the poorest congressional district in the state of Missouri. And how we move forward from this time on is we have to look at the educational platform of our nation. We have to look at how we're educating our children in our schools and how we're holding them accountable for the curriculum that we're teaching. We need to look at vocational training right now at the state level and the federal level. They're cutting vocational training, which is going to affect our welders, our electricians, our farmers. Our future of the vocational workforce for America is being cut, and we have to prevent that from happening. On the other end of the spectrum, we have to provide those children with an efficient, effective education that's going to take them into the future and be our workforce of tomorrow here in the 8th Congressional District. So I'd like to see the educational platform of the nation move forward to be able to compete globally with jobs in the economy in the 8th Congressional District. I think it's ever important that we take a look at that farm bill that Congress is having a tough time negotiating and passing. We have many farmers in the 8th Congressional District that need that farm bill to pass so that they can get the crop insurance that they need to know that they're going to be able to put their tractors out into the field come spring. They're going to be able to plant and harvest and know that they have the backing of the government to do that, and that we're not going to leave them hanging should drought or flood come in between them and nature. So we want to make sure that that farm bill gets moved forward, that we not fight over urban Democrat and Republican issues. So I'd like to see the economy in the Boot Hill move forward through agriculture as it has always done in the past. We also have to look at the manufacturing that we've lost. And as a nation, we're not losing that as a portion of Missouri. We're losing that globally. And so as a nation, we have to take a look at what are we doing that we're following behind the rest of the world and losing manufacturing jobs. So it's time that Congress, I have run a business in cattle farm, but to get to know how to move business forward is to talk to the business leaders of Southeast Missouri, get their input on how we can help them to better run their companies, to be able to provide the support in Congress or nationally to get their businesses successful. How do we get Missourians to buy Missouri products? How do we get Americans to buy American products? And so that's the thing. You don't go to Congress with all the answers. You sit back and you listen to the solutions of other people and take their good ideas to Washington, D.C. with you. I just want to say in moving forward that I am known to be tenacious in Jefferson City. I'm known to be a hickory stump. You can't change my mind. I have my thoughts and my ideas, my ambitions, and they come from the people in the place that I was raised here in Southeast Missouri. I have a wonderful, supportive family. My husband, Dr. John Hagler, is the Director of Agriculture. I'm very proud of my son, who is a police officer in Crystal City. But I want to let you know the program and the placement and moving forward in the 8th Congressional District is putting together a strategy where people have a voice in Washington. And we take care of the debt ceiling when we sit down at the table of negotiation. And we don't call this a partisan issue anymore. We call this an issue about people, and we listen to their thoughts and their ideas of moving the nation forward. I would share my strategy of going forward. That is just putting together a team of effective people in the campaign. I don't want to really go into specifics because I know that we have media. We don't share our plan of attack. And I would love to sit down with the committee one-on-one and share my plan for moving forward. But I think it's important today to get to know who I am and know that if I'm put forward, I will give it 110%, and there will be a team put in place that can make this happen.
All right. Thank you very much. We're under time here, folks, so we have a certain amount of time. We have some questions from the audience. There's been a couple of questions selected because of the time. There'll only be a limited number from the audience that'll be to be asked. Yes, ma'am. Dr. Rushing is next.
Thank you, Chair and officers, for the opportunity to be here today, and also the vice chairs and chairs of the districts and counties. Welcome all the guests and the media. We have a lot of work ahead of us. A little bit about myself. I've been a practicing chiropractor in Poplar since 1988. I graduated from Marietta, in Marietta, Georgia, from Life Chiropractic College. From the moment I got into the profession in the state, I've held an office in the Missouri State Chiropractic Association. I have actually helped write legislation for hospital access for chiropractors. I've written legislation, helped write legislation for physicians' lien law. I've been legislative chairman twice. I've been insurance chairman. When I was insurance chairman, I negotiated with the largest insurance company in the state of Missouri. So I've got a background with administrative rules and rules and regulations and statutes. I'm currently the president of the Missouri State Board of Chiropractic Examiners. I've been on there for 10 years. I was appointed by with Governor Holden. I worked through there under Blunt and currently there under Nixon. We have, like I said, a lot of work ahead of us. One of the main reasons why I ran for office the first time is because I'm absolutely fed up with the gridlock we have in Washington. We have the lowest popularity of Congress in 50 to 60 years. Ironically, look how many incumbents win when they come back for election. There's really something wrong with that model, okay? The bottom line is that we have to move our country forward. We have highways, bridges, and roads that need construction where they're falling apart. At the same time we're putting those back in working order and bringing them back up to code, we'd be employing millions of people across the United States to do that. The jobs bill had never been voted upon. The farm bill has been recessed. These things, there's work that needs to be done. Now, on the other side of the aisle, the Republican candidates that are running, I don't see how they're going to be able to break gridlock. That was a question that was asked to them in their program. And, you know, you have to be able to compromise and you have to bring common sense to the table. And that's something that I believe that needs to be done, and it's important to be done for our citizens of the 8th District. As far as the economy goes, a thing to address is in the late 80s and early 90s, we had hosiery mills, hat factories, and shoe factories in our 8th District. We don't have hardly any now. There are thousands and thousands of jobs that have been lost. And that's because people at the wheel are taking care of those people and those manufacturers. And we can't get some of those jobs back. Now, NAFTA and some other things were tweaked the wrong way, and people paid for it. You know, there's some big people at the table that want to have their hand on money sources. And they're the ones that benefit the most by these situations that develop. And it doesn't always benefit the average citizen of the state of Missouri. So we need to focus on the thing that's going to make an environment within this district for manufacturing to return, to amplify what we already do in agriculture. These things have to be done. You know, most people don't even realize, you know, cattle farmers don't get any subsidies. They don't get much assistance at all. Whereas in agriculture, mostly from bringing crops, your farmers do. So there's a lot of things we have to work toward and a lot of things we have to focus on. And to do that, it's going to take a unified effort of the Democratic Party and independents and Republicans of like mind to come up and vote for a candidate that's going to go to Washington and not have gridlock. Because gridlock is not serving us. And we can't always posture all the time. I'm not that way. I believe if something needs to be done, I don't care if someone else gets the credit for it if we accomplish it and get it done. Well, we have some good candidates here, and the first thing I say is I pledge that whoever's picked to run, and if it's other than me, I pledge that I'll work diligently to help the candidate get elected, whoever it is. So that's where I stand on those issues, and look forward to answering questions today on anything else of interest to the audience we have here today.
1 minute.
And basically, that's all I have at this time.
We'll begin with Mr. Mann. And the first question for the candidates, and you have 3 minutes. And the first question is, how do you stand, or how will you stand on preserving Medicare and Social Security for our citizens?
I am so glad that's your first question, because that is a top priority for me. Absolutely. Social Security, Social Security has been robbed. It's time to put money back into Social Security. They've been taking money out of Social Security, and it's time to put that money back. Medicare and Social Security, I'm going to fight to make solvent for the next 100+ years. I want to just get it off the table. They use this as a scare tactic and everything else, and it's time that we take care of that and we make those solvent for the next 100+ years. One of the ways I would like to do that is, you know, when you see money being sent to Egypt or Libya or all these other places, every time I see that on television or hear about it, I think, let's put that back in Social Security. You know, let's build that account back up. And so I will fight tooth and nail for our Social Security and Medicare recipients and make sure that the government is not taking money out of those. We want to keep them solvent and we want to take care of those folks. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Ramona,
Okay,
you're next.
thank you. Okay, just like Mr. Mann said, Social Security, the trust fund needs to be, it's being rated by the general expenses. We need to continue the gradual raising. I know we don't like to hear this, but to continue the gradual raising of the age of retirement. Because Social Security, if we don't do something, is not going to be here for my children, for my grandchildren. That's a hard thing to accept. Say, I mean, right now, I can't draw Social Security at 65. I can't draw it till I'm 67. And there's a possibility I won't even be able to draw it till I'm 70. That's not fair, but that's one of the things that's probably going to happen in order to make the Medicare and Social Security solvent again. Also, Mark says continue the gradual raising of the retirement age in light as our lifespan increases. But you know, one of the things too, we need to fight age discrimination in the workforce. Because so many times, people that are in their late 50s and 60s are discriminated against by the workforce. We also need to continue gradually raising the maximum income level for the Social Security tax to apply. Keep our economy strong so that employment remains high and more people pay into the Social Security system without lengthy breaks for periods of unemployment. Simple plan. It's not something that all of us want to hear, but the main thing is we've got to keep Social Security from being rated to pay general expenses. That's not what it was there for. That's not what it was started for. It wasn't put into effect to pay our government expenses. It was put there for me and you for when we retire. And right now, there's a big possibility that it's not going to be there because the government has their hands in it to pay other things. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hoffman. Representative Black, 3 minutes, please.
And to answer the question on Social Security and Medicare, for Social Security, it's first important to make sure that we have a strong middle class that is paying into Social Security. 2, that the government keeps its hands off of Social Security other than the dedicated purpose for which Social Security was set up. And another avenue that I'm always looking for is wasteful spending in government or fraud, and we need to look at the Social Security disability benefits and make sure that only those people who are truly disabled are receiving those benefits so that those who are retiring and approaching retirement age will have that income for them. They paid in, they worked all their life, but we have too many people who are receiving disability benefits that shouldn't be doing that, so cut out fraud in the program. Medicare, I hold a Medicare enrollment program every fall for my senior citizens in my district, and I see that it is important that we hold the insurance industry to accountability so that we can finally have some transparency in our health care cost, so that when you go to the doctor in St. Louis or Viverna or Kansas City or Chillicothe, that your doctor is charging you appropriately for the services that you're getting, and that you're being consistent, that they're being consistent and transparent in their fees, because there are doctors through this program who are charging too much for those services in some areas and just barely getting by in others. So I think transparency in our health care, holding the insurance to accountability, and then our insurance, and then our health care costs can go down and we can make sure that Medicare is able to be solvent. So I am a strong proponent of Medicare. I think it is very important. I have a constituency service in my district to make sure those people are getting the best plan for them, and I would continue that on into Washington, D.C. if so be. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative.
We definitely had a problem in the past with the federal government coming in and taking money out of Social Security. And, of course, that has to stop, and I agree with Mr. Mann that we need to get that funded. It needs to be kept healthy. It is something that has allowed our senior citizens Social Security to live in dignity, and when they pass on, they even give a nest egg of so-called money or inheritance to the children. And without it, and without Medicare, to help them through the later years of life and sometimes the long hospitalization, most people would lose everything they have. On Medicare, Medicare does a pretty good job in many instances of cost containment, sometimes better than the actual private sector hospitals, insurance. But the issue is that there still is a lot of waste, and they have to retool and redevelop how they can reduce that waste. Because if they can really get rid of some of the rampant waste that occurs in certain sectors of healthcare, then it's going to save money and make it more solvent, make it more balanced on the books. So those are the things that we need to do. As our economy gets greater and employment returns back, we're going to have people coming off of Medicaid, and that's also going to help reduce the amount of outflow that we have. So if we do those measures, I think it will answer a lot of the needs. It is going to be an uphill road, and it will be a tough thing to change.
Dr. Rushing, Ms. Bader, we'll start with you on this one. Our next question is, what can be done in Congress to help the economy in Missouri's 8th District? Be as specific as you can, please. 3 minutes.
Well, one of the things I think that needs to be looked at is we have to create an environment as much as possible to bring jobs, to bring manufacturing back into our area. And that can be done with incentives to corporations, tax incentives and such things as that. But at the same time, when we deal with things like any of the NAFTA and CAFTA type of agreements with other countries throughout the globe, we really have to ask ourselves, how is it going to affect us long term? How is it going to do that? With education, a lot of new jobs are going to take place in technology. So going to what Representative Black said, we need to have good education for our students and our children in the 8th District, so that when the call comes and these jobs are available, when these plants come into our district, then we have a job pool that can go in and work it. Because right now, for many of these technology plants, we don't have that. And other than that, we need to do all we can to enhance the production and the increased productivity of agriculture, because that is going to be the #1 economic engine of the 8th District for years and years to come. We need to try to improve tourism and get as much dollars as we can out of that in the 8th District. But if we can do manufacturing and improve agriculture and improve tourism, it's going to help balance the scale.
Thank you. Representative Black.
To encourage economic prosperity in the 8th Congressional District, I think it's important that we look at some of the failures in the district before. We take a look at the Wholesome Cement plant, which is now up and running and is a success, but we look at the red tape that company had to go through in order to open the plant. It took 7 years. It took EPA one after another obstacle to overcome. While we were fighting for 7 years to get one plant that was going to employ hundreds of people making good pay per hour, a pay that they can raise their families on, China opened 200 cement plants while we got one open. So I think that we have to make sure that we're able to get some regulations lifted that are nonsense, so that our businesses can thrive and so that the industry can be able to expand without government regulation in the 8th Congressional District. I think it's important in the other regard of EPA. We have the levee situation where we're wanting to shore up the levee, but we have wetland issues that is fighting fish and wildlife versus farmers in the Boot Hill. We need to have some sense whenever it comes to, do we need to eat or do the birds need to eat? And I think we need to say that we are the breadbasket of America, we're the breadbasket of the world, and we need to make sure that we're allowing our farmers to utilize their farmland to the best of their ability. I think manufacturing is something that we can try to attract, but we have to look to the jobs of the future. Whenever we look to the jobs of the future, we have to look at how to educate our children to compete globally for those jobs, to provide them a good education here at home so that they can be competitive in the future. There are lots of things that we can do as Congress or as the state legislature to help business grow, but the one thing that we have to do is allow those business people to come to the table and tell us what they need in order to make their business and industry thrive. And so I think that open door policy of hearing from your business leaders, them telling us how best they can run their business, them telling us what's restricted or hindering their ability to have a successful business to thrive. I think it's all in listening and then taking that message to Congress and making the changes once those discussions have taken place. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. I'm sorry, Ms. Booth. A moment, bear with me.
Mark says that we need to help small businesses and farmers, that is the key to the 8th District. We need to eliminate overregulation. We need to balance the budget to restrain eventual inflation. Don't increase taxes on small businesses. Provide incentives for hiring regarding i.e. tax credits or new equipment. And Don't punish capital gains. And we need to create an energy policy to keep fuel costs down. Mark's been in the HVAC business for over 40 years, and during those years, when he first started, there was 30 HVAC manufacturers in the United States. Believe it or not, there's only 4 now. And Nordyne being one of those that's located here in Poplar Bluff. But since Nordyne, it makes a good product, but they, like other remaining manufacturers, are finding it harder and harder to compete with the low-priced equipment that's coming out of Japan and China. And if you look, ladies and gentlemen, when you go into the stores, almost everything we pick up is made in China, made in Japan, Indonesia, or whatever. The loss of manufacturing didn't happen overnight, and it's going to take many years before we can solve this problem. Like I said, it's not going to be solved overnight. It will take many years to fix. We have to start at home by trying to change the buying habits of the American people. American people must change from wanting to buy the best price and instead want to buy durable goods made by U.S. manufacturers. We have a little company in Sikeston, Missouri called Slushers. I love going into that business. It's family owned. You go in and they have everything you need. And you get personal service. And Slushers has been there for as long as I can remember. Mark's company he works for is 130 years old. They are family owned. 5th generation. They don't sell the cheapest, but they do make a profit, and what they do is offer service with their company. But we're going to have to change the buying habits of us and look to buy what's made here. Not Japan, not Taiwan. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I agree with a lot of what the other candidates said, so I'm not going to reiterate that. But what I would do is I would fight for federal dollars to bring back to this district. And I will fight for every dime of that I can get for this district to bring back here. If there's going to be a federal building built or any facility at all, I want it here in this district. And let me tell you what, if we change this district from red to blue, don't think we won't have the president's ear. I will have his ear. I will work hard, I will have his ear, and I'll bring those dollars here. Thank you.
Now, I'm told by the chair that it's time to wrap up. Each candidate will have an opportunity for 3 minutes to wrap up everything they've spoken about this evening. So let's start again with Mr. Mann, and we'll go right now with this. 3 minutes to wrap up.
Thank you, Senator. Again, I would like to thank this committee. This has been an honor to come here this evening and stand in front of you. I just wish my father was with me. He passed away when I was 14, and I felt like he was on a co-pilot today with me. And then when I see our opening remarks are going to be 5 minutes instead of 3, well, then I got to talk a little more about my family and include him. So I appreciate that, because he was definitely my inspiration. This is the best opportunity that we've had in a long time. We can win this race. We need to stop the gridlock in Washington. There will be times when we have to work across the aisle, and I can do that. I did that in Jeff City. I spent nearly 6 years on my state board there, and I chaired it for 2 of those years. And there were things I was told that with the act of God, you would not be able to get done. And you know what? We got those things done. When I went over to that Capitol and I worked with senators and lawmakers and state reps, I didn't look on their door to see if there was an R or D. I went there with my plan and what I wanted to finish and what I wanted to accomplish, and we got it done. And I'm proud to say that in them 6 years, we got more done in the history of that board, and it was the first board ever in this state. And I'm very happy about that. I also think we need to pass a long-term bill for farmers. You know, if we get out of the way of farmers and let them do what they do best, you know, they don't need the federal government meddling that much in their business. But let's get a long-term bill passed for those farmers. And I'd like to say, farm to market. I would also like to say that we're going to have to balance the budget. I think we need to get this budget balanced, and once we do that, or start doing that, and when I say do it, I don't mean have it complete, but I mean get the ball rolling, get it started. That's going to open up for us to do more with the federal dollars to get in here in this 8th district. In closing, I'd like to say that our campaign team will be the best campaign team this state has ever seen. We will fight hard. We will work 24/7. We'll amass the biggest team you've ever seen in this district, and Republicans will not know what hit them. We will take this district back to blue. And with the help of this committee and all of you, we can make this happen. Again, I'd like to thank you, and have a good evening.
Thank you, Mr. President.
We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common sense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. This one sentence, this preamble to the Constitution, provides the basis for what I believe any representative or senator in Congress should follow as their guidelines in writing or passing any law of the land. We, the people, we need to send our representatives to Washington, and they have the best intentions. As a representative, we need to take care of those intentions, which in turn will take care of our constituents, the people in the 8th District who we are representing. Republicans locked in the camp and Democrats locked in the other. No one wants to talk, no one wants to compromise or make a bad decision, so they don't make any decision. We have to break down the walls of the behavior, get people talking and compromising on solutions to our nation's problems. No one group has all the answers. Congress needs to get along in order to move along. Union. I believe a strong union begins at home. It's not how much we try to teach our children, it's how much they learn. We need to teach them moral character, honesty, empathy, and sacrifice. Too many people want government to solve all their problems instead of relying on themselves and their family and traditional Midwest values. There are people who cannot solve their own problems and need help from families or church affiliations or the local and state and federal agencies. We must recognize that fact, but it should be the exception, not the rule. Justice. Justice for all means the opportunity to work hard and be rewarded for your efforts. Rewards should not be handed out and Mark uses this phrase, nilly-willy, without individual efforts by those capable of providing for themselves. Justice does not mean everyone will have the same, but they have the same opportunities as everyone else. Mark says, I believe that our Constitution is an outline of how we are to conduct ourselves. As for me and my house, I will continue to serve my family, my church, and if allowed, the people of the 8th District. Just like Mr. Mann said, I think the Democrats have a wonderful opportunity to take the 8th District back. 32 years of Emerson name has not gotten the 8th District anywhere. And with the help of everyone, regardless of who you nominate as your candidate, each one of us needs to get out and campaign for that Democrat candidate. And we need to take over the 8th District. It needs to become a Democrat. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ms. Bryant.
First of all, thank you again for coming, and I appreciate you sitting through and listening to our responses and making your decisions in the upcoming weeks. If I were to never represent the 8th Congressional District as your congressperson, I want you to know that just the fact that we do still have Democrats in the 8th Congressional District that still believe in God and country. We still have Democrats out there who are conservative in their stance, who are those who want to negotiate and talk and compromise. Is if we take nothing else from this conversation today, I want you to know that it is still possible that the Democrats can rise again. It is possible when we get our message out. And if I'm going to stand on a soapbox ever, it's going to be now. Democrats, we have got to take back our message. I'm pro-life. I stand up for the Second Amendment. I'm viscerally conservative, and I love my God. And He's always ruled my life and helped me in every endeavor I've ever had. So Democrats, if nothing else, let the Republicans, sorry, Mr. Justice, let them know that we are good, American, red-blooded people who deserve to have our voices heard in the State House, in Congress, and everywhere in between, and don't let them tell everyone who we are. You go tell everybody who we are as Democrats. Thank you.
You know, he starts the clock as soon as you call the name. Okay. Well, one of the things, going back to why I want to be involved in the process and why I want to run for this position, goes back to conversations I've had with my good friend Michael Jackson. That we need civility in politics. And we absolutely do need civility in politics. It doesn't have to be mean-spirited. It doesn't have to be who's going to get you, who's going to say this, who's going to say that. We need to move things forward. We need to do that by deductive reasoning and consciousness and by common sense. You know, when I was running against Joanne, and to just remind everybody, when Joanne came in and Paul Ryan came in the latter part of the 90s, they served the entire time as the Bush administration. Now, we had an ecosystem prior to the Bush administration, an ecosystem in such a way that we had ample revenue coming in to match expenditures going out. It was balanced to such a degree that we had a surplus after he left office. Now, regardless who was president or who is in charge of the House and who was in charge of the Senate, the fact of the matter is we had an ecosystem. We had a balance of revenue coming in and a balance of spending going out. But when Bush came in, they wanted to reinvent the wheel. They really wanted to correct the mousetrap. So they had an idea that they could have tax cuts and revenue and that would increase the economy and balance the cuts. But at the same time, they spent. And the two representatives I mentioned were front row and center and voted for every spending bill he wanted. Now, what that did, when you had the increased spending and the reduced revenue, is where we're at today. So we need to focus on the things that works, and we need to work forward toward that. The important thing is, as far as I'm concerned, is that we do the things that are necessary. We need to go back to the golden generation. They did things when they needed to be done, when they needed to be done, whether they liked it or not. And that's what we need to do. I also agree we need to buy American. I gave a talk one time on healthcare issues to the UAW, retired UAW people here in Poplar Bluff. And when I pulled into the venue site, there was over 100 cars there. And I had this interest to see how many of those cars were imports. Not one single car was import. There were Ford Chevys. They were cars made in the USA. That really impressed me. I addressed that to them when I met with them. But these are the things we have to get back to. Common sense, working together as a team with our people across the aisle. And that's what I'm going to promote. Thank you very much for your time today.
Don't we have an awesome slate of candidates? We really appreciate